Okay, in this video we will try to see or we will try to produce high quality graphs for publications, scientific publications in journals. Many a times we produce graphs using Excel, but actually they are not up to the mark. So in this video I'll try to show you how can you produce quality graphs using Excel itself. So let's begin. I'm working in the field of computer-aided drug design. Recently we have performed molecular dynamic simulation of two proteins, and what you can see is the molecular dynamic simulation data over here. So we have performed a 100 nanosecond simulation. So column A represents this time in nanoseconds, and column B, it tells us about the molecular surface, change of molecular surface of protein 1 over the course of simulation, and column C, it tells us the change of molecular surface of protein 2 during the molecular dynamics simulation. Okay, so if we would like to see the change in a graph, what should we do? So we will select these columns till the very end. Okay, so we have selected the columns. Now we will click insert, we will click insert scatter, and then we will plot a scatter plot. Now you can see we have got the graph, so we can see how the molecular surface changed over the period of time. Now regarding this graph, if I would like to make it a large, if I make it larger, then you can see it more clearly. Now the graph looks nicer. However, sorry, there are some problems in the data. Let's see what's the problem. Okay, it should be 9, and there should be another fault to my knowledge. Let's see what's the fault. Okay, fine. 31. Now it should be fine. So let's go back. Okay, so you can see that this graph has several problems. Number one, there is a lot of blank space over here, which makes the graph quite a bit, I say, ugly. If it is not ugly, it's not even beautiful. Secondly, we have performed 100 nanosecond molecular dynamics simulation data, molecular dynamics simulation, but the data, if you see, it extends over 100 nanosecond to 120 nanoseconds. We don't need this area because there is no information over this area. And thirdly, you can see the graph is really hard to see. That means it is not that much clear. What I mean by that, if you look at this graph, it was published in a scientific journal, and you can see the graph looks quite good. There are points which are indicating the time frame, and RMSD value, time, these texts are easily visible. Overall, the graph looks nice, but if we look at our graph, it doesn't look that much nice. So how can we make our graph look much nicer? For that, I can edit the graph in Excel, and you can do that, but what I would like to do, I'll take that graph to a PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint file. So I'll create a PowerPoint file, and I'll go to the graph. I'll copy the graph and paste it over here, and I'd like to keep source formatting. I'll delete this. Okay, so at first what I'd like to do, I'll make the graph much bigger so that it covers the entire slide. Now you see it doesn't look much nice. We'll keep this graph to compare this graph with our edited graph. So I'll make another graph, I'll copy the slide and paste it. So I'll now edit the third slide so that you can visualize the change. Now you see there is no x-axis. Okay, first of all, if these y-axis values and x-axis values, they are very hard to see. So what I'll do, I'll change their font to, say for example, Times New Roman, and increase the font size to 20. I'll make them bold and I'll make it black. You see these texts are not actually black, they are somewhat gray. So if you'd like to make them more visible, then you'll have to make them black. I'll apply the same condition to x-axis values, 20, bold, black. Now it's much more visible, I think. I'll not use a chart title, so I'll delete it. And you see there's a legend. For legend I'll do the same thing, Times New Roman, but in this case I'll use 24 so that it is more visible. I'll make make it bold, and I'll make it black. Now we have some problem because we don't have any x-axis title and y-axis title. We can do that. So what we will do is, if you see the upper portion, there is a section called Chart Tools. If you select the chart or graph, this entire section will appear, and you have to select Design. Now after selecting Design, we will go to Add Chart Elements. We will add x-axis title, and we will also add y-axis title. So in this case, x-axis is time, nanosecond, and y-axis title we will call it molecular surface area. So for simplification we will write mol SA, and our unit is angstrom square. So we'll copy that and paste it here, and we'll put bracket. It looks a jeopardized, but it will be okay. So what I'll do now, I will select this title and again go to Home. I'll select Times New Roman. In this case I would like to select 32 to make it more visible and make it more distinct from other informations in the graph. So 32, and I'll make it bold and black. In case of time, I'll do the same, Times New Roman, font size 32, bold, black. Now as you can see, the graph is already has already started to look nicer. And what we will do now, you see this line is called horizontal axis measure grid lines. So there is a horizontal axis measure grid line, and obviously it is vertical axis measure grid line. So we will delete both of them. So click any one of them and then right click and press delete. So vertical measure grid lines are removed. Now we will click on horizontal axis measure grid lines and right click and delete. So it's all deleted. So we now have some other problems. If you look at these values, okay, before looking at the values, you see we said that this whole place is blank. So if you'd like to because it has started the value from 0, then it has gone up to 16,000. So we see the value of molecular surface actually fluctuated within the range of 16,000 to 10,000. So we will start from 10,000 over here, and we will just we would like to see the values over 16,000. So I'll click here, and actually I will have to double click, and it will bring us to a page called Format Axis, and there is an axis option. It is already clicked. If it is not clicked, you will have to click it. So you see there is a boundary, so their minimum boundary is set to 0. Now I would like to set it to 10,000. Now if I click enter, you see the graph is changed. However, the computer or the program is smart enough, so it has changed the value to 14,000 to 14,500 angstrom square, so that the graph fits best. Now if you'd like to change this value also, maximum value, you can just type in 16,000 and then press enter, and it will bring you to that value. But I think the previous one was best, so I'll type 14,500 and press enter. Now it looks much nicer. Okay, another thing is so we have edited the y-axis. Now we would like to edit the x-axis, because there is no value after 100 nanoseconds. So I'll click here in the x-axis values. Now you see there is another minimum and maximum. So in this case, I'll just set the maximum value to 100. Now you see the graph looks much nicer, I think. Okay, so we will take normally what I do, I would like to put the legend here, and I'll take the whole graph a bit down. Sorry. Okay, so you see now the graph looks a bit nicer. Now we have another problem. You see molecular surface area. This text is very close to the value, so it might be annoying to see those values very close to that text. So what we will do is we will select the plot area, and we will try to squeeze it. I can almost guarantee you it will not affect the quality of graph very much. Okay, so I'll drag it to somewhat right, and you can see the text also was dragged. Now what I will do, I'll select only the text, and I will drag it a bit left. Now you see it looks much cleaner. Okay, but still you see those texts and values, they are very eye-catching, but still the graph itself is not very much eye-catching. So what can you do in this context? I'll just click on the values, and you see all the values are actually selected. So I'll click on fill and line. Then there's a color section, so I will color it with a bright color. For example, if I select cyan, it will say complex formatting something something. Just click yes, and you can see the color is much more brighter now. If you would like to see, say for example, green, personally I like green, so in this case you can see this color is much more brighter than the color below. Okay, so normally what I normally recommend, if there are two proteins, use just blue and red, the normal color scheme, so that we can compare the data with our previous graph. So I will select this blue. It looks much nicer, I think. And now after selecting the color, there is a width section, so I will increase it, and while I increase, you would see the change. Okay, so you see, while I'm increasing the width, the width of the line is increasing, and it is becoming much more visible. Normally I select 2.5, it looks much nicer, but if you'd like to select 3, then it's okay too. Okay, fine, so let's select 3 for the time. but selecting 3 makes these values less analyzable. That's why I prefer 2.5. So 2.5 is better, I think. Okay. Now I'll select this one, that means the data for protein 2, and I'll select the color red, and you'll see it's bright red, so it will shine your eyes. Now we will select 2.5, and you can see we have significantly improved our graph. So if we would like to compare it, you see that was our previous graph, and after editing, this graph has this picture. Now we have some other things to edit. For example, if I select the x-axis values, and if you then select fill and line, and you can see that there is a line section. There's a line section. So what I would like to do is I'll select color. It's already grayed out, so I'll select color black, and then I will increase the width of the line. As you see, there is if you look at the y-axis, you see the line is very difficult to see. It's grayed out, so I'll increase the width, so you can see the difference between y-axis line and x-axis line. So 2.25, 3, no, okay, fine. So let's keep us at 2.5. Okay, so that's great, I think. 2.5. Now if you see that this line is grayed out, but this line is now much more visible. So if we would like to apply the same thing here, we can see the color, and then we will apply width 2.5. Okay, that's it. So I think the graph looks really nice at this point. So if we continue to increase the width, what happens? You see the width increases. So I normally prefer that it's 3.5, and it's also 3.5. So it will give you a better impression, and the graph will look much nicer. Okay, so the point is, whenever you are producing a graph using Excel, you should import it to actually you should copy it to PowerPoint. Then after importing it to PowerPoint, you need to use the full slide. You need to drag the Excel chart to cover up the whole PowerPoint slide. Then you need to modify. So the modification involves these are called x-axis title, sorry, this is y-axis title, x-axis title. So for y-axis title I use 32 font size. For y-axis values I use 20. For legends I use 24, so that they can be easily understandable. Okay, one thing I'd like to show you, and I'd like to conclude my video with this thing, how to generate a qualityful picture from Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay, fine. So I have produced a qualityful picture, and now I would like to save it. So I'll go to File, then Save As. Say for example, I would like to save it in my desktop. Now I'll select PNG. You can select JPEG or GIF. Normally I prefer PNG, so I'll select PNG, and I'd like to give it a name. Then I say select, save, and I will say it asks me which slides I want to export. So I'll say just this one. So it has made a fantastic picture of this graph. So let's see. Okay, so this is the PNG file. If I open it up, you can see that's a nice fantastic picture, and it's a and obviously you can use it for your publication. So thank you very much.